In the headlines this week,
the Prime Minister of Canada came to see me, and what was he talking about? Gays.
take it slow. President Museveni's call on the anti-homosexuality bill that brought a new twist to the gay debate in Uganda.
We have lost some customers.
Bearing the brunt, Air Uganda admitted to a drop in air passenger travelers following terror threat alerts. And the Haiti quake tragedy, the devastation that brought Port-au-Prince to its knees as a powerful earthquake flattened the city, leaving thousands dead and hundreds others buried underneath rubble. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on 7 Days. Hanging over Uganda like a sword of Damocles, raging debate about the unresolved anti-homosexuality bill finally elicited a response from President Museveni this past week. In a turn of events and in contradiction of the popular view of his cabinet, the president asked the sponsor of the anti-gay bill to go slow. The president's statement was interpreted as a sign that he had been cowed by persistent pressure from the international community and donors. Emmanuel Mtaizwa reported that the president ordered that the private member's bill be sent to cabinet for further discussion and way forward.
Government seems to have buckled under pressure from the West, distancing itself from the anti-homosexuality bill, which had drawn a backlash from donors. President Museveni chose a contrasting political pulpit, the National Executive Council meeting at State House Entebbe, to speak explicitly about David Bahati's bill. Many had thought that the president would speak about the acrimony and intrigue which has created rifts within the ruling party ahead of the 2011 polls.
The Prime Minister of Canada came to see me, and what was he talking about? Gays. Prime Minister Gordon Brown came to see me, and what was he talking about? Gays. The other day when I was here, Mrs. Clinton rang me. What was she talking about? Gays.
Officials consisting of ministers, lawmakers and district chairpersons booed Museveni when they interpreted his statement as a U-turn on MP David Bahati's bill, which was initially supported by government officials. Ethics Minister Dr. Nsaba Buturo, a leading critic of the bill, was amongst those in attendance. Casting more doubt, Museveni argued that if passed into law, Bahati's bill could have certain foreign policy implications.
There was a rally in New York of 300,000 homosexuals. Now, I would want to challenge you, members of parliament. How many of you, other than me, who have had a rally of 300,000 people?
The NEC meeting continues tomorrow and will close on Thursday. It is expected that the question of internal cohesion and cliques within the party will be tabled for debate. After months of intense lobbying and threats from the Western community, President Museveni's declaration today perhaps hammers the last nails in the David Bahati bill, which brings into contest the analogy that sometimes those who pay the piper call the tune.
But a day after President Museveni's statement, the man behind the anti-gay bill, Ndora West MP David Bahati, said his resolve to pursue the proposed new law to its end was unshaken. Chris Ochamuringa reported on Bahati's reaction to the president's warning.
The Ndora West MP David Bahati is a man whose idea of criminalizing homosexuality in Uganda has been received with lots of joy by locals and an equal measure of scorn by the international community. The raging debate over Bahati's bill sucked in President Museveni, who on Monday said that Cabinet would call the legislator for discussions given the hostile response that the bill has attracted.
That the Cabinet sit down with Bahati, a subcommittee, and see how best to handle this issue. Because it is a foreign policy issue.
And David Bahati says he sees no problem with the president's suggestion as long as African values are ultimately protected.
We welcome the comment of the president on this bill and the need to engage with cabinet to ensure that we have a piece of legislation that will protect our children, defend our tradition of family as we know it between a man and a woman.
Are you intimidated by the pressure that is mounted?
As pressure intensifies, we are also intensifying prayer, and we are happy that the religious leaders are engaged in this matter.
The anti-homosexuality bill is currently at the committee stage where it will be scrutinized by the Legal and Presidential Affairs Committee before it is taken to the House for debate. Bahati says it's technically impossible for the bill to be withdrawn now.
More than a week after one of its planes was recalled back to Entebbe following a terror threat alert, Air Uganda reported a marked decline in passengers traveling on its airline. Air Uganda's Chief Executive Officer Hugh Fraser blamed the cancellations on the December terror threats, but was quick to reassure the public that measures to keep the airline safe had been made. Inspector General of Police Major General Kale Kaihura confirmed that security at Entebbe Airport had been significantly boosted. Anat Kunda reported on government's response to this emerging national threat.
Last week, the US warned that regional extremists were planning attacks on Air Uganda flights between Kampala and the South Sudan capital Juba. Air Uganda operates flights between Juba Airport in Sudan and Entebbe Airport in Uganda. The Uganda police say they took the warning very seriously and have stepped up security at the two airports.
We want to assure the traveling public that Air Uganda is safe and secure. Anyone who had doubts should now be reassured by the measures we have announced.
The police chief says they are working closely with the government of South Sudan and have increased security screening and tightened onboard security. They've also deployed sniffer dogs and extra mobile patrols in the airports. Uganda police are also sharing information with the US to analyze the more sophisticated explosives that may be undetected through normal airport security.
We have got a simpler method for that. Body check using hands. Yeah, we are enhancing on that one. Body search. So if we search you, please, it's for your own security. If we touch you.
In the meantime, Air Uganda is losing customers on the Kampala-Juba flights.
We have lost some customers. Thankfully, the Ugandans are still very supportive of Air Uganda, as are the other people from within East Africa. It's a real shame that this news is broken now, and it's unfortunately scared and worried a lot of people unnecessarily.
The US warning came amidst increased scare and tensions following the attempt by a Nigerian man to blow up a plane of the US-based Northwest Airlines on Christmas Day. In October 2009, Somali terror group the Al-Shabaab, believed to have close links with Al-Qaeda, threatened to strike Kampala and Bujumbura. This, they claimed, was in retaliation for rocket attacks by peacekeeping forces of the two countries, in which about 30 people died in the Somali capital Mogadishu.
It was also the week when it emerged that the African Union mission in Somalia would be extended by another 6 months at the expiry of its current mandate at the end of January. From Somalia, where reports that the anticipated extension of Ugandan and Burundian troops in Mogadishu had elicited anger amongst the Islamist extremists, the Al-Shabaab. Emmanuel Mtaizwa expounded on these reports with an interview with UPDF spokesman Felix Kulaije.
The African Union plans to renew the mandate of the peacekeeping mission in Mogadishu for another 6 months to show up support for the war-ravaged Horn of Africa state. Uganda and Burundi are the only countries running the AU Mogadishu mission. The mandate of the African Union mission to Somalia expires in February. Army spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Felix Kuleje told NTV that it's likely there will be a renewal when this term expires.
We went to Somalia for a mission, and indeed we know that mission is still going on. It has borne some fruits, and we shall stay until the AU says sufficiently you can go back home.
However, the Al-Shabaab, an insurgent group in Somalia, which has been at the heart of a bloody campaign, has of recent issued a spate of threats against Uganda. Last Saturday, the United States warned that Al-Shabaab extremists were planning an attack on Air Uganda flights between southern Sudan and Kampala, targeting Americans. So was the planned attack in any way linked to plans to renew Uganda and Burundi's mandate in the beleaguered Horn of Africa state? Lieutenant Colonel Kuleje says the warning last Saturday was not necessary because the UPDF got wind of the terrorists' plan in December.
The so-called threat, allow me to use that word, announced by the US Embassy in Juba, in our view was uncalled for, because this is old information. We got these threats early December 2009. We shared the information with our colleagues in Juba. Efforts were made to try and mitigate.
This threat also came amid heightened tensions following the botched Christmas Day bombing attack on a Detroit-bound U.S. airliner blamed on a Nigerian man who U.S. officials believe was trained by the Al-Qaeda in Yemen.
You're watching 7 Days. When we come back, we'll tell you why Africa's uniformed men and women converged in Kampala these past week. And the tedious exercise of counting vehicles, a slow start to a vehicle survey in a census exercise carried out on Kampala's roads.